If you by chance hear the sound of rain in the background of this video, that's okay. It's okay. Rain happens. Just know that at least it's just rain. It's just water falling from the sky with no intention of flooding the world. The world is flooding. It is a horrifying time to be alive, to know that everything you can count on is going to be underneath the ocean in only a matter of about 100 years. Hello, Internet. I'm the hero of Julios, and this is One Piece Chapter 1115, Pieces of a Continent. The chapter has this lovely art of Yamato getting a bento box prepared by Hiyori and little Toko because, you know, if you're going to go on a trip around the entire island of Wano, or islands of Wano, you better pack a lunch because it's going to be a long trip. That's pretty much all we have on that. Let's get into the actual chapter itself, which, honestly, it starts off with kind of my favorite part of the Egghead arc right now. Just Vegapunk's speech being plastered across the world and the responses from everyone around it. Well, we got Momonosuke. He's listening in and he's like, Joy Boy really sounds a lot like Luffy. I mean, he was a pirate. He stretches. This is kind of cool. And Kinamon's listening as well, and he just sort of asks Momonosuke, do you know who Joy Boy is? Because, remember, Momonosuke and Yamato know way more about the Void Century than anyone except maybe Vegapunk, because they both read Odin's journal. It's one of the reasons why I'm really glad both Momo and Yamato didn't go with Luffy when he left Wano, because it's nice to have the whole crew learning about all this together rather than a couple members already knowing and just being like, oh yeah, I remember reading that in Odin's journal. Because that kind of dampens the impact that this information has. I'm okay with other people knowing what we, the audience, and the Straw Hat crew don't know, but it's nice to see the crew together learning about this history. Whether Luffy pays attention or not is up for debate. But they're not the only ones who hear about all this. We see a jail cell in, I believe it is G4, where a pirate captain of notable caliber is sitting in his jail cell laughing it up. He's like, this Joy Boy doesn't sound that tough at all. And his crew's like, yeah, you could take him on easily, couldn't you, Captain Eustace Kid? As clearly, obviously, Captain Eustace Kid is sitting in his jail cell. For those of you who are just now getting into One Piece, this character is known as Demolo Black. He is apparently really good at impersonating people. I don't know how he does it, but sure enough, this is the man who made a fake Straw Hat crew. He was going to recruit a whole bunch of people and then use their power to take over the New World as subordinates of the Great Monkey D. Luffy. Unfortunately for him, Luffy happened to arrive back at Sabaody the same day he decided to start his great pirate era, and subsequently got captured by the world government. I did see a couple comments on the Viz manga section that noted the killer in his crew looks like Drip, who is the guy that faked being Sanji as the fake Straw Hats. But if I remember correctly, anyone who wasn't Luffy, Robin, or Chopper on that fake crew ended up getting buried alive by Caribou. So unless they clawed their way out and then found their way to their captain, I'm pretty sure this is a new crew. Demolo doesn't really seem like the kind of guy who cares about his crew, and I doubt they would care about him in turn. So I'm positive these are pretty new people, unless Oda says like, oh yeah, no, they got out of there, or the government dug them up because nobody deserves to be buried alive. I could see that happening. Regardless, he is back at his old shenanigans, pretending to be Eustace, Captain Kidd, who... that's a dangerous game you're playing. Like, Luffy having a fake Straw Hat crew, I mean, you saw Chopper's response. They thought that was kind of flattering. Chopper was like, oh man, we're such big stars that they're pretending to be us. This is kind of cool. And Luffy didn't even know the guy was pretending to be him. In fact, several members of that crew even tricked him. I'm sure if Demolo had looked Luffy in the eye and said, I am Monkey D. Luffy, Luffy would have looked back at him and said, did not know I was staring at a talking mirror, but you do you, fam. And kept going on his journey. Pretending to be Eustace, though? If he finds you, he's gonna do a lot more than bury you alive. Oh, that rain is really picking up. Only because it understands the dangers that's going on here. Anyways, so Eustace is a really, really risky choice if he wasn't probably out of the picture. Shanks really did a number on him, so this is actually a really safe opportunity to take over. But before the people know that he's dead, and before, there's any confirmation, you have this little window of opportunity to actually pretend to be Eustace Kid and make use of the reputation. Although he's in jail, so I guess it really doesn't matter that much. Did I focus a little too much on this part? Maybe. So as Vegapunk's speech continues, we cut to the Navy, a few members who are like, the enemy of Joy Boy and his crew are the world government. Isn't that us? And the other guy next to him goes, yeah, no, that checks out, though, because he's a pirate. And their superior officers just like, what are you guys talking about? You can't let this story get to you. It's clearly fake. We're the good guys. You can't let his propaganda spread and trick the world into thinking we're the villains, especially if you guys are starting to fall for it. And as this speech continues, we cut to Zoe, where the minks are listening in on this. We see Zunisha actually has like a ... where this is, Zunisha in particular isn't just hearing the history of the world. Zunisha's hearing the story of his dear friend Joy Boy, or her dear friend. It's really hard to tell when Zunisha is just a booming voice in your head. I don't think anyone's really gotten close enough to check if Zunisha is a boy or a girl. So I'm just going to go with him. But that's not the only person we focus in on. We focus in on Foxy. And Foxy's just laughing, telling his crew, this is a ridiculous story. This guy is peanuts. He's not just nuts. He's peanuts specifically. And Porsche is just like, Captain, you're making me hungry, because it's just down to the three of them as a crew. So, or at least, actually, that is interesting. Why is it just down to the three of them? It was in the filler arc that the entire crew got lost. It was in the filler version of the Davy Back fight. Yeah, actually, even in that version, they got sent away. Foxy has a fake mustache. Who has the rest of Foxy's crew? Did he just lose a really bad Davy Back fight? I'm gonna have to look into that a little more. I'm pretty sure Foxy didn't lose his entire crew. At least the last time we saw him. It's nice to see him again, though. We then cut to Stussy and Kaku as they are still in that control room, and she does get a message from Edison, who I forgot to mention in the last chapter. Edison did fulfill his little side quest. He expanded the island cloud so that the Straw Hats have more room to jump the ship off safely into the ocean below. But he does contact Stussy and tells her, hey, it's Edison. I did it. I expanded the Labo Phase's cloud so they can jump successfully. You should probably get on that boat and get going. And she's like, what about the protection dome? And he goes, no, get rid of that too, because really no sense in keeping that dome up since, I think like 2 of the 5 elders have gotten through so far. And I mean, it was designed to keep out enemies. The enemies are in here, so all it's doing now is keeping us in, and that's not very safe. And Stussy goes, oh, so I don't have a mission to fulfill if I have to lower it and then raise it, but you're just saying to lower it and leave it that way. And he's like, yep, that's right, so you're good. And she goes, but Edison, Stella's dead. Vegapunk's gone. You guys are great and all, but without the main Vegapunk, who do I have to live for? Which opens up a big can of worms here of the big question of, is a clone a person? We haven't had to deal with this moral quandary in the real world yet. I think the closest we've gotten to cloning is animals. I think there's that sheep that got successfully cloned. I've heard that if you have enough money, you can clone your pet. But we've only gotten to successful animal cloning. We've never successfully cloned a human being. If we did, and that person grew and became their own living, thinking, rational human being capable of thought and opinion and moral, is it a person? I would say yes. It would be really weird to know that there's some kid out there at, the tender age of 5 when I'm 48 that he looks just like me, and if he grows, without taking any damage, he's going to look like me, and maybe if he diets a little better, he won't look exactly like me, but, he'd still have the same general structure. It would also be a great understanding of nature versus nurture. Like, if you cloned a person, and so that their base nature is inside of them, you could raise them very differently and see how they turn out, or will they just go back to who they were originally? It's a fantastic scientific question that I don't know if I want answered. But Stussy is asking that question right now. Do I matter? Am I a person? Now that Vegapunk is gone, I was a clone working for him. Can I just be my own person now? And the whole time Kaku's just kind of watching her. Now, I have said many times on this channel, I am not a power scaler. However, I am a bit of a shipper. I've got ships that I support. I have ships that I've changed in my mind. Long time ago, used to be a big Zoro Robin shipper. Honestly, after a lot of convincing from a friend of mine, I am really on board with the Frankie Robin ship now. I think it's a really kind of cool pairing, and we've even seen hints of it where, like, Frankie was offering Robin a ride on the motorcycle and Brooke stole that from him. And so, I mean, let's face it, as far as the crew goes, they're both mature adults. Robin's already, so yeah, but I actually kind of hope Stussy and Kaku have a happy ending. Maybe they don't get married, maybe they don't run off together into the sunset, but Kaku's a really nice guy. I really think he should just stop being a murderous Cypher Pole agent. It never works out for him. The first time, he got beat up by Zoro. The second time, he got beat up by Zoro and a couple Seraphims. Like, it's just not a good line of work for Kaku. You're a giraffe. Just join a petting zoo. Or maybe even go back to Water 7. If they attack you, moonwalk your way out of there, Kaku. But you and Stussy could just retire to Water 7. Get your old job back, I'm sure Iceberg, after 2 years, could at least hear you out. Maybe not forgive you outright, but hear you out. Especially with how much you know from the Cypher Pole. You could be like, hey, Iceberg, these guys are crazy. And what I saw with the 5 Elders, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I just want to build boats. Can I build boats, please? And then Iceberg would let him back in, at least in my perfect ideal world. But as this is going on, Venus Juro is down below trying to take out the escape ship and actually gets a pretty good slice in towards Bonnie as Frankie ducks her out of the way. Sanji's been knocked to the side. Oimo and Kashi are on the ground. This slice heads straight for Bonnie, and it ends up missing her, taking out the front of, or the little skull head at the front of the giant ship. Because Bonnie pulled a chopper. She was in her giant form, and she just sort of swoop back down to her little kid self. And Frankie's like, "Whoa, that was pretty good." And she goes, "I can't do distorted future that long. That took a lot out of me." So it's like Luffy's Gear 5th. It's like any power up in One Piece. You can only do it for a little while. The 5 Elders, this seems to be like their base strength. And to be fair, if they are immortal like Eam, they've had hundreds of years to perfect this. This is probably them at their peak. That's pretty much all we see of that fight if I'm taking a look at these notes. But as Vegapunk continues giving his explanation of the world, we do see both Mars and Saturn using Conqueror's Haki to knock out the snails. So this is confirmed that there are 2 more Conqueror's Haki users among the 5 Elders. Yes, it is safe to assume all 5 have it, but I'm very big on if the manga hasn't shown it, it's probably not true. So that's why I'm like, yes, Galaxy Impact from Garp did have the Black Lightning and stuff. I don't really know if that confirms he's a Conqueror's user. And yes, I know Sengoku never showed it in the manga, but Oda said himself that he is a conqueror's hockey user, so that's a completely different story. Anyways, 3 out of 5 elders confirmed, waiting on the last 2. I believe it is Venus and Jupiter, who once again makes no appearance, because we even see Warcury charging towards Luffy and Dorian Broggy screaming Vegapunk as he charges forward. And I don't know, St. Peter just decided to go find a banana. Maybe he found the infinite food machine and was like, you know what? If I stick a rock on this button and the food just keeps coming out and I turn into my sandworm form, I can just eat. You guys seem to got this covered. I'm gonna go eat. But as this is going on, we learn that the Void Century unfortunately ended in Joy Boy's defeat. This 100-year-long battle, at the end of which formed the world government that has ruled for the last 800 years, ended with Joy Boy's defeat. Now, mind you, the world government was founded 800 years ago, not 900 years ago, 800. As Vegapunk goes to explain, the 20 kings that formed together to make the world government actually formed in order to defeat Joy Boy and the kingdom, maybe not the kingdom he was from, but the faction that he led. We still don't know whether Joy Boy was the hero or villain of this story. Vegapunk even goes as far as to say, I don't know the full story. And Oda's very, very vehement on making sure we know this from Vegapunk, that he doesn't know the whole story. Take it with a grain of salt. Because of this, we don't know if Joy Boy was the hero or the villain. Now, yes, he has the Nika fruit. Yes, he is Joy Boy, which means a lot of people laughed and smiled. You still gotta wait on it. Joy Boy could have been an ironic title. Fighting however he fancied because he was evil enough to not be held back by morals. There's a lot of ways that this could have been spun, and the 20 kings could have been good kings. I mean, we know Vivi's ancestor was. It could have been the defeat of Joy Boy that led to the kings all deciding, hey, now we're in charge. We didn't save the world. We just put it under new management. And then they go do their evil things. So let's focus back in. I'm gonna zoom us back into Venus listening, and he's like, okay, I've heard enough. Joy Boy, whatever. And he jumps up and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna take this thing down. And he just slices through the entirety of the Labo phase, cutting it in half, causing the Cipher Pull agents and the Seraphims to just fall out. They're still in their little pachinko balls as the Seraphims are falling. I don't know if these are bubbles that can just be super easily from the outside, but they are indestructible from the inside. Whatever the reason, they're still inside, and the Navy actually rushes to try and catch them. So if anyone was worried about the Seraphims and the Cipher Pull agents, they're going to be okay. They're not going to be wiped out by the whatever it is that Mars is going to do, the big blasts or the spider venom. Those guys are going to be okay. Now for the big reveal from Vegapunk. If I had a drum, this would be a really cool drum roll. We live on top of a continent. The world as we know it was sunk into the ocean, and we live on but a small fraction of the continent that once was. In fact, I will go even deeper as to say there were multiple continents that had been sunk beneath the ocean, because in that span of 100 years, the entire world had sunk beneath the ocean by a factor of 200 meters. For those of you like me whose immediate first thought was, how many feet is that? Roughly 650 feet. To put that in an even bigger perspective for you, I am going to put down a topographical map of the United States. I don't know a lot about geography, but I do know that height matters when it comes to living above the ocean. If you look at this chart, you can see that red and white are like the highest peaks, green and yellow are the lowest peaks. If you're looking at this map right now, look at it, look where you live, look for the general area you live, and just be like, wow, I live there. Did you say, wow, I live on one of those yellow or green spots? You're gone. Your home is gone. The entire world as you know it is sunk beneath the ocean. I hope you can swim, because I can't. That's one of the reasons why I would eat a devil fruit if given the opportunity, because nothing about me would change. I already can't swim, so why not get a superpower on top of it? But I digress. 200 meters of sinkage over the course of 100 years. Vegapunk goes on to explain that cannot occur naturally. From every scientific way I have looked at it, geography, weatherology, some other ology, geometry, geography, I already said weather, history, anything that I have researched into has told me that can't happen without artificial assistance. Artificial assistance known as the ancient weapons. The ancient weapons. Those ancient weapons are still resting somewhere in our world today. We as the audience, not Vegapunk's audience, but we as the One Piece audience, we know Poseidon is still around. Shirahoshi just got reincarnated a fresh 16 years ago. Pluton still exists, resting in Wano, guarded by its massive walls. A lot of people have speculated that the Mother Flame is Uranus. I'm starting to agree with that mentality. These ancient weapons, when used, damage the world. They are just that powerful. And during this 100-year war, they were used a lot, for good or bad. Heck, we know Joy Boy is a friend to the Mermaid Princess. He could have convinced Poseidon herself to use the Sea Kings in a way that caused the world to sink, to damage the structural integrity that made the world sink further. We don't know whose side Pluton was on, and I would say Uranus was probably the world government if it is Eames' weapon and he's been blasting it over and over again. But as Vegapunk goes to explain, if these three weapons are still in sleeping around the world and are still in use around the world, then the Great War never ended, even if Joy Boy was already defeated. Isn't that crazy, boys and girls? Oh, I don't even know what to say at this point. That was quite the show off of expression. Also, Eam is listening in on this. Oda even focuses in on Eam's eyes when Vegapunk says the war never ended. This chapter and the chapter before it and a little bit of the chapter before that, this whole Vegapunk history speech has been one of my favorite parts of One Piece. Not just because it's a huge lore dump, but because it is such a gratifying moment. It's such a happy moment for me that Oda has spent the last 25 years making this world, making these characters, and we get to see all of their responses. This is something that can only be done through a medium that is allowed to last as long as it needs to. A book can be written as long as it needs to be. A manga can be written as long as it needs to be. Sadly, a movie only gives you a couple hours. A TV show gives you maybe 10 hours, maybe 15 hours, depending on how long the season's allowed to be. But in a medium like manga, in a medium like books, it's not like in a movie. Like, for example, in the movie Independence Day, when the one president guy is making a huge speech about, this will be our Independence Day and we're going to stop the aliens and all that good healthy stuff and America and all that great stuff. We cut to the rest of the world and we see the British and we see the Germans and we see people in Egypt and we see people in Russia and we see people in China, and these people are looking on to this speech. But you're not attached to any of those people. They're just British people. They're just French people. They're just American onlookers. In One Piece, we have this huge array of characters, some of which we haven't seen in a long time, some of which make me go, how did Foxy lose his entire crew? I have to go back and reread that, if it was even there when it happened. We have an entire world watching this, and we know and care about so many of them already. I wish I could tell a story so thick with characters that you see a character and go, so that's how that guy's doing. This is probably... Egghead's probably going to be my favorite arc by the end of it, because we're not even done with it. So, obviously, the next chapter is just going to be a continuation of Egghead broadcasting out to the world responding, the Five Elders going, Vegapunk, why? And then Eam going, this isn't good. But eventually, we're going to learn the scientific facts of the Void Century. We're not going to learn the story of the Void Century, just the facts. It is when Robin gets to the Rio Poneglyph and tells the entire crew, okay, sit down everyone, I'm going to tell you the story of the Rio Poneglyph. And she's going to look at Luffy and go, Luffy, turns his head, Luffy, look at me. I'm going to tell you the history of your devil fruit. You're going to listen. Good Luffy. Somebody keep an eye on him. So here's the story, and that's how that's going to happen. But for now, we have another wonderful chapter to look forward to. Pretty sure there's not a break next week, and I'm just sort of excited for it. You can tell by the amount of babbling I did. I love lore. I love world building. I love giant expansive worlds. And I love when it's not raining on me and only raining during my videos. I'm going to sound like a crazy person if none of that rain gets picked up, but that's okay. Thank you for watching as always. Let me know in the comments what you think of this latest chapter and what you think the next big lore drop's going to be, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.